Welcome to Time Before Us, the channel where ancient history breathes again. Before time had a name, before the first human breath, there existed a world fierce, forgotten, and alive. Creatures of scale and silence, predators wrapped in feathers, titans that shook the earth, lives erased, bones buried beneath eternity. But they are not lost. They are waiting. This is Time Before Us, where prehistoric worlds rise again, and the stories buried in stone finally speak. Chapter 1: Giants Beneath the Moon. The night is heavy. Not in a way that feels suffocating, but in a way that feels ancient, as though the air itself remembers stories older than mountains. Above, the moon hangs low and luminous, painting the land in silver light. Shadows stretch long across the forest floor, and somewhere far beyond the trees, water flows with the unchanging patience of time. Then, the ground whispers, a vibration. Soft at first, like the faintest beat of a drum. Far away, it grows. Each deep, deliberate thud is spaced apart, as though the earth itself is breathing slowly. From between the towering conifers, a silhouette emerges. At first, it doesn't seem real, a shape too large, too graceful to belong to this world. But it is, a brachiosaurus. Its legs are like columns rooted deep into the earth. Its neck arcs into the sky, high enough to brush the clouds if they wandered low enough. The moonlight traces its massive form, highlighting the gentle curve of its back, the slow sway of its steps. It moves without urgency. It does not need to rush. The night belongs to it. Every footstep sends a soft tremor through the ground, the kind you can feel if you press your palms against the soil. It stops beside a grove of ancient trees. With a motion so slow, it's almost hypnotic, it stretches its neck up, higher and higher, until its mouth reaches the highest leaves. Branches barely rustle as it feeds, each bite a small rain of leaves drifting to the ground. From somewhere in the distance, another giant stirs. A diplodocus, its body stretching impossibly long from head to tail, moves through a clearing like a living river of muscle and bone. Its neck sweeps side to side, grazing from low shrubs to mid-level branches. Its tail, slender and whip-like, trails behind it, swaying lazily over the ferns. They do not approach each other, yet their presence fills the night with a quiet majesty. Two titans sharing the same moonlight. The air smells of damp earth and crushed fern. Tiny clouds of mist cling to the ground where the forest floor dips. Insects hum softly, a sound so constant it blends into the silence. Predators, if they are out tonight, keep their distance. Why challenge something that could end you with a single swing of its tail? The giants know this. They live without fear. Near the water's edge, the brachiosaurus lowers its head, nostrils brushing the still surface. The pond mirrors the moon, the stars, and now, the reflection of a creature that hasn't changed in millions of years. It drinks slowly. Each swallow sends tiny ripples outward, distorting the sky's reflection until it smooths again. But then, a sound. Not threatening, soft, quick. A hypsilophodon darts from the undergrowth, a small, nimble herbivore, no larger than a dog. Its eyes glimmer in the moonlight as it pauses to nibble at low-growing plants. It stays close to the shadow of the brachiosaurus, knowing that predators are less likely to approach when the air is filled with the scent and sound of such colossal beings. Clouds drift lazily across the moon, dimming the silver light before revealing it again. Each time the light returns, the forest looks a little different. A new shadow, a branch swaying, the glint of moisture on a fern, and in this shifting light, you notice the slow, rhythmic breathing of the giants. A rise, a fall, like the tides of an ancient ocean that has long since retreated. It's easy to forget, when we think of dinosaurs, that they didn't roar every moment of their lives. They didn't spend all their days locked in battles for survival. Much of their existence was like this. Slow, peaceful, eternal. The diplodocus pauses mid-step, its head tilting slightly as if listening to something far away, perhaps the call of another herd member, or maybe the low hum of the night itself. Then it moves on, disappearing into the darker folds of the forest, its tail the last thing to fade from sight. Above, the stars stretch endlessly. Constellations that no human eyes have yet named burn faintly in the black. The moon, brighter than any of them, continues its watch, bathing the earth in a light that makes even the largest creatures seem like shadows. Imagine lying here, the grass cool beneath you, feeling the earth shift gently under each step of these ancient beings. There is no fear here, only wonder that the giants pass. The forest exhales, and the night goes on. Chapter 2. Feathers in the forest. The forest is still, but not silent. Somewhere in the canopy, something rustles softly. It's not the wind. The leaves barely move. The sound is rhythmic, careful, almost purposeful. A shaft of pale dawn light cuts through the mist, illuminating a figure perched on a thick branch. At first, you might think it's a bird, but the proportions are wrong. The head longer, the snout lined with tiny, serrated teeth. It is a microraptor. Its body is small, delicate, yet draped in a shimmering coat of feathers that shift from deep midnight blue to subtle bronze as it moves. Not the dull, scaly skin of what we once imagined dinosaurs had, but vibrant, layered plumage, catching light like silken water. It crouches low. Every muscle is still. Only its eyes move, scanning the forest floor. Then, with a whisper of air, it leaps. Its arms, feathered like wings, spread wide, catching the faint breeze. Feathers on its legs form a second set of lifting surfaces, turning its glide into something almost balletic. It drifts between tree trunks, barely making a sound before landing on another branch. The air in this part of the forest is thick with the scent of wet leaves and blooming ferns. Somewhere below, a group of small, beaked dinosaurs, oviraptorids, scratch gently at the ground, searching for fallen seeds and insects. Their heads bob in quiet unison, their feathers puffed up against the cool morning air. You might be surprised at how many dinosaurs wore feathers. Not just the small, bird-like ones. Even some larger predators bore plumes, downy coats, or quill-like structures. To them, feathers weren't just for flight. They were insulation against the chill, displays for attracting mates, and even tools for camouflage. In the soft light, a caudipteryx steps from the ferns. It's about the size of a peacock, its tail fan flaring slightly as it moves. Its feathers shimmer faintly with hints of rust red and gold, blending beautifully with the forest floor's autumn tones. It pauses, tilts its head as if listening, then resumes its slow foraging. Above, the microraptor glides again, this time landing closer to the forest floor. It watches the others for a moment, its head tilting side to side in a manner so bird-like, you almost expect it to chirp. Instead, it blinks slowly, then melts back into the shadows. Feathers in the forest catch the dawn in a way scales never could. They breathe life into the scene, soft edges in a world of sharp teeth and towering trees. In the gentle stillness of morning, they are less about survival and more about beauty. And as the mist thins, the forest reveals more, the quiet flutter of wings, the shifting glint of plumage, the subtle movements of creatures living in perfect balance with the ancient world around them. Chapter 3. The river that time forgot. Imagine a place where time itself seems to have stopped. A place where the air hangs heavy with the scent of wet earth, where the calls of strange ancient creatures echo across the water, and where the same currents that flowed millions of years ago still run deep. In the heart of prehistoric Earth, such a place existed, a winding, swampy river system that cradled life from an age long gone. This was no ordinary waterway. It was a cradle of evolution, a sanctuary for species both familiar and alien, and a stage for one of the strangest ecosystems the world had ever seen. The river's banks were lined with towering conifers and ferns. their roots twisting into the muddy shoreline like gnarled fingers clutching the earth. Dragonflies the size of dinner plates darted above the water's surface, their iridescent wings catching the sunlight that pierced through gaps in the canopy. Beneath them, herds of plant-eating dinosaurs emerged from the tree line to drink, their feet sinking into the mud with a soft squelch. The water rippled as massive, unseen shapes moved below, ancient predators, whose kind had been lurking here for millions of years. But what made this river so special wasn't just the animals that drank from it, but the fact that it was a living fossil of an ecosystem. It was a rare and perfect time capsule, untouched by the geological changes that had transformed most of the planet. While continents drifted and climates shifted, the river remained, a hidden oasis where species that had vanished elsewhere still thrived in secret. To step into its waters was to step into another world, one that belonged as much to the Triassic as to the Cretaceous. Here, giant amphibians lurked in the shallows, their wide, flat heads barely breaking the surface. Crocodile-like reptiles basked on sandbanks, their armored bodies glistening in the heat. Fish that looked as if they had swum straight out of the Devonian age darted in the currents, unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, and towering. Above it all, long-necked sauropods waded into the deeper sections of the river, their massive tails swaying like the trunks of fallen trees as they searched for aquatic plants. The soil beneath those colossal feet was far more than just dirt. It was a living, breathing system, a foundation of life itself. Tiny insects, ancient plants, and microscopic organisms worked quietly underground, breaking down leaves and fallen branches, enriching the earth and creating a rich tapestry that sustained towering trees and vast forests. This intricate web of life beneath the surface was crucial to the flourishing of dinosaurs. Above, rain would often soften the soil, turning it into a malleable canvas. In this moment, dinosaurs left behind impressions that time would one day preserve. Think about the story each footprint could tell. Was it a massive predator stalking its prey with stealth and precision? Or a cautious herbivore making its way to a watering hole? These tracks are silent storytellers, speaking volumes to those who know how to read them. Beyond footprints, the soil sometimes reveals nests, carefully crafted by dinosaur mothers. Imagine a gentle giant tending to a clutch of eggs hidden beneath leaves and dirt, nurturing new life with quiet dedication. These fossilized nests give us glimpses into family life millions of years ago, a tender side to creatures often imagined only as fierce giants. Beneath the surface, the soil acted as a natural vault, preserving the bones and shells of creatures long gone. Minerals seeped into the organic material, slowly transforming bone into stone, freezing a moment in evolutionary history. These fossils are the keys that unlock ancient mysteries, helping scientists piece together the lives and environments of prehistoric times. The quiet earth was also home to microorganisms and insects that thrived in the damp, dark soil. These tiny creatures played a vital role in breaking down organic matter, recycling nutrients, and supporting the growth of plants. Without their tireless work, the lush forests and vast fern plains wouldn't have flourished, and the dinosaurs above would have struggled to find food and shelter. Even the faintest ripple or erosion in the soil can reveal clues about ancient climates and landscapes. By studying sediment layers, scientists can understand how the Earth's environment changed over millions of years when seas advanced and retreated, when volcanoes erupted, or when deserts expanded. The soil holds a timeline written in layers of mud, sand, and ash. Walking through a prehistoric forest, you might never notice these hidden stories beneath your feet. But beneath the undergrowth lies a vibrant world, roots twisting through earth, insects burrowing silently, and seeds waiting for the perfect moment to sprout. This underground network sustained the giants above, creating a delicate balance that allowed life to thrive. Fossilized pollen grains trapped in the soil tell tales of ancient plants, some now extinct, others distant relatives of the trees and flowers we know today. These tiny particles help paint a picture of prehistoric ecosystems, revealing what the dinosaurs ate and the climates they endured. Sometimes, the soil reveals the aftermath of dramatic events, fallen trees swallowed by mudslides or footprints abruptly ending near ancient riverbeds, hinting at sudden floods or predator attacks. These snapshots of moments frozen in time allow us to imagine the drama and danger that punctuated the daily lives of prehistoric creatures. The quiet earth is also where many fossils are found today, carefully excavated by paleontologists who spend years piecing together fragments of bones and shells. Each discovery adds a new chapter to the story of life on Earth, helping us understand evolution, extinction, and the incredible diversity of the past. In a sense, the soil beneath us is a library, each layer a page, each fossil a sentence. Invites us to listen closely, to be patient, and to appreciate the slow work of nature preserving these precious relics. Every handful of dirt holds a connection to the past, a reminder that beneath our feet lies a world both silent and alive. With stories. As we walk softly across this ancient ground, we carry with us the echoes of footsteps and whispers of lives lived long ago. In every handful of soil, there's a hidden chapter waiting, inviting us to listen closely and discover the quiet secrets beneath the soil. To truly appreciate these stories, it helps to understand how fossils form beneath the earth. When a creature dies, its body begins to break down, but under certain conditions, parts of it, usually bones or shells, can be preserved. If buried quickly by mud or sand, the remains are shielded from scavengers and decay. Over time, water rich with minerals seeps through the layers of sediment, gradually replacing organic materials with stone-like minerals. This process, called permineralization, turns bones into fossil solid, durable records of life long vanished. It's a slow, delicate transformation, often taking thousands or millions of years, but it preserves the shape and sometimes even the microscopic details of these ancient creatures. Fossilization doesn't always capture the entire animal. Sometimes only footprints, skin impressions, or fragments of bone survive, but even these fragments can tell us volumes. They allow scientists to reconstruct not just the creatures themselves, but their behavior, environment, and the challenges they faced. Paleontologists are like detectives, carefully studying soil layers to piece together the past. The order of sediment layers acts as a timeline. Older layers lie beneath younger ones. This natural archive, called stratigraphy, helps scientists date fossils and understand the sequence of events in Earth's history. Within these layers, subtle changes reveal clues. Shifts in sediment type can indicate changing environments, like a riverbed turning into a swamp or a lush forest giving way to arid plains. Tiny fossils like pollen or microscopic sea creatures provide further insights into climate and ecosystems. One remarkable discovery comes from trace fossils, the footprints, burrows, and nests left behind by creatures. Unlike bones, these are direct records of behavior. They show how dinosaurs moved, hunted, and interacted with their surroundings. Imagine finding a set of footprints that tells a story of a mother dinosaur leading her young through a muddy floodplain, or a predator's chase frozen in time. While we often picture dinosaurs roaming under vast skies, there was an entire hidden world beneath their feet that was vital to their survival. Microbes and fungi in the soil broke down fallen leaves and animal remains, recycling nutrients essential for plants to grow. These plants, from towering conifers to delicate ferns, formed the diet of many herbivorous dinosaurs. Without this underground ecosystem, the food chain would collapse. The soil's tiny inhabitants were silent partners in the dance of life, unsung heroes. Maintaining balance, there's a profound beauty in knowing that every handful of soil we touch connects us to an ancient story. Beneath the surface, the earth holds the echoes of footsteps, the memory of rustling leaves, and the promise of life that once was. When scientists carefully brush dirt away to reveal a fossil, it's like opening a letter from the past. These moments of discovery remind us that life is fragile, transient, but also resilient. The quiet earth speaks to patience, to the slow but sure passage of time, and to the endless cycle of life, death, and renewal. Today, as we walk on soil that once bore the weight of dinosaurs, we share the same ground with those ancient creatures. In a timeless connection, the earth beneath us continues its silent work, preserving stories for future generations. In fields, forests, and deserts around the world, new fossils are still being uncovered, reminding us that the story is far from over. Each new find reshapes our understanding and invites us to look deeper, listen more closely, and respect the mysteries held within the quiet earth. Beneath the soil's surface, another remarkable phenomenon often occurs: fossilized plants and pollen grains preserved with astonishing detail. These tiny fragments serve as windows into the past, revealing the types of vegetation that covered prehistoric landscapes. Pollen, carried by wind or water, settled into sediments and was trapped there for millions of years. By analyzing these microscopic fossils, scientists reconstruct ancient climates and ecosystems, giving us clues about what the dinosaurs ate and how their environment shifted through the ages. Imagine walking through a dense forest, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. Beneath your feet, countless pollen grains drift silently into the soil, each a microscopic time capsule. Some belong to towering conifers that shaded the dinosaur herds, others to flowering plants just beginning to diversify. This hidden world of pollen and spores is a vital piece in the puzzle of prehistoric life, helping us understand how plant life evolved alongside the giant reptiles. But the soil also tells stories of sudden, violent events, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and floods that reshaped landscapes overnight. In certain sediment layers, we find evidence of these cataclysms: ash beds from volcanic eruptions or thick mud deposits from flash floods. These layers, sometimes abruptly cutting through other sediments, remind us that prehistoric life was not only a peaceful journey, but also a story marked by upheavals and survival. Fossilized footprints, sometimes preserved side by side, reveal fascinating behaviors: herds moving together in migration, a predator's stealthy approach, or even the hurried flight of prey. One famous site, known as a dinosaur freeway, shows hundreds of overlapping footprints from multiple species. Walking through these ancient tracks, you could almost hear the soft thuds of feet on soft earth, the low calls between herd members, and the sudden panic of a chase. The quiet earth beneath the forest floor also holds the remains of insects, some preserved in amber, others fossilized in sediments. These tiny creatures, from beetles to ancient dragonflies, formed an essential part of prehistoric ecosystems. Their presence in the soil helped maintain the delicate balance, pollinating plants, decomposing organic matter, and serving as food for other creatures. Understanding the soil's story also sheds light on how dinosaurs adapted to changing environments. As continents drifted and climates shifted, dinosaurs faced new challenges: arid deserts, vast wetlands, or dense forests. The soil's composition changed accordingly, recording these transitions in the layers beneath. By studying these changes, paleontologists piece together the evolutionary pressures that shaped dinosaur diversity and behavior. Today, excavations continue to reveal the quiet Earth's treasures. Paleontologists work carefully, often in remote locations, uncovering fossils that reshape our understanding of the prehistoric world. Each find, whether a single tooth or a complete skeleton, is a testament to the Earth's patient preservation and the story waiting beneath the surface. For the curious mind, the soil is more than just ground, it is a bridge across time. It invites us to touch, to explore, and to imagine the countless lives that once thrived above and below. Every fossil, every footprint, Every grain of pollen holds a story, waiting quietly beneath our feet. As we conclude this journey into the quiet Earth, we are reminded that history is not only written in books or shown in museums, but also lies hidden in the very ground beneath us. The soil keeps the memories of an ancient world, silently waiting for us to uncover its secrets with care and wonder. Chapter 22. The Hidden Symphony of Prehistoric Life. Imagine yourself deep within a prehistoric forest. The towering conifers, arching overhead, and patches of sunlight warming the forest floor. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient foliage. At first, it might seem quiet still even. But listen closely, and you'll hear the subtle hum of life weaving an invisible symphony all around you. This is the hidden symphony of prehistoric life, a rich tapestry of sounds and movements that shaped every moment of existence for creatures large and small. Though the massive dinosaurs may seem like silent giants frozen in time, their world was anything but quiet. It was alive with calls, rustles, footsteps, and wing beats, a complex orchestra that filled the ancient landscapes with meaning and connection. What did the calls of dinosaurs really sound like? Since sound rarely survives fossilization, paleontologists turn to clues from their closest living relatives, birds and crocodiles. By studying their vocalizations and anatomy, scientists imagine that many dinosaurs communicated through a range of sounds. Some likely produced low-frequency rumbles, felt as vibrations through the ground, much like modern elephants do to communicate over long distances. These deep sounds could warn of danger or call the herd together. Others might have issued higher-pitched cries or sharp barks, piercing through the forest to mark territory or alert others. Think of the sudden flare of a warning call that ripples through a quiet woodland, startling, urgent, alive. These sounds were part of a language of survival and social bonding. Insects formed a vital part of this soundscape too. The warm prehistoric air buzzed with the calls of cicadas, beetles, and dragonflies. Their constant background noise provided a comforting soundtrack and a rhythm to the days and nights. Smaller dinosaurs and other animals would have listened to these subtle signals, detecting changes in time or the approach of a predator. Water, whether trickling in streams or pooling in swamps, added its own gentle percussion. The babble of rivers mingled with the croaks and chirps of prehistoric amphibians and fish, blending aquatic sounds with the land's orchestra. Along coastlines, the distant roar of waves and the calls of marine reptiles created a mesmerizing marine melody. Even the wind contributed. Leaves rustled softly, bending under the weight of ancient ferns and conifers, creating whispers that spoke of passing storms or the shifting of seasons. Imagine the soft crunch beneath dinosaur feet, fossilized today as tracks that still speak. Volumes about movement and behavior. Picture a herd of peaceful herbivores, moving together, triceratops or hadrosaurs, each footfall a slow, steady drumbeat on the earth. Occasionally, a low grunt, a gentle nudge between youngsters, or the rustle of feathers breaks the silence, reminding us these were social creatures, caring and connected. Predators, too, played their part. Imagine a stealthy theropod moving silently through undergrowth, the soft padding of claws on soil barely audible. When the hunt began, sudden bursts of sound, growls, hisses, and loud roars would echo through the forest, a dramatic crescendo in this ancient symphony. But the symphony wasn't just made by animals. The earth itself contributed to the soundtrack. Volcanic tremors rumbled deep below, distant thunder rolled across the sky, and tectonic plates shifted, reshaping the landscape in slow but powerful rhythms. These natural sounds reminded all life of the ever-changing world around them. Today, scientists use advanced technology to recreate these ancient soundscapes, layering fossil evidence with the behavior of modern animals. These reconstructions bring the prehistoric world to life in our imaginations, transforming cold bones into vibrant creatures, filling silent fossils with song and story. This symphony was not random noise, but a living, breathing language. Complex conversation carried on sound and movement. Every call, every rustle, every footstep was a thread in the vast tapestry of life, woven together in a dance of survival, communication, and community. The hidden symphony of prehistoric life connects us deeply to a world long vanished, reminding us that dinosaurs were more than fossils. They were living beings with stories told in sound. It invites us to listen, not just with our ears, but with our hearts, to the music of life that once filled the ancient earth. As we close our eyes and imagine this world, we are part of that symphony too, carried across time on the whispering winds and the beating wings of creatures long gone, yet forever alive in the hidden music of the past. Chapter 2-3 Guardians of the Lost Forests. Step gently into the heart of the lost forests. Ancient realms where towering trees stretched there, limbs to the sky and sunlight filtered through a thick canopy of leaves. These forests were more than just a backdrop. They were vibrant, living worlds that nurtured countless species, including some of the most fascinating dinosaurs to ever roam the earth. These lost forests were home to towering conifers, ferns, as tall as a person, and strange cycads that seemed to belong to another world entirely. Beneath their leafy shadows, dinosaurs found shelter, food, and safety. Here, every creature had a role, a balance maintained over millions of years by a delicate web of life. Among these forest silent guardians were the herbivores, giants that moved slowly but with purpose. Creatures like the gentle stegosaurs and the heavily armored ankylosaurs roamed beneath the trees, feeding on tough vegetation. Their armor wasn't just for protection, it was a symbol of their ancient bond with these forests, a testament to survival in a world where danger lurked in every shadow. The forest floor was alive with movement. Small dinosaurs darted between ferns, quick and alert, while larger ones lumbered through, leaving deep impressions in the soft earth. Birds, the descendants of dinosaurs, added color and song, flitting among the branches and keeping the forest vibrant. But these forests were not just peaceful havens, they were battlegrounds and arenas of survival. Predators like the stealthy dromaeosaurs used the dense undergrowth to stalk prey, moving like shadows through the mist. The balance of life was fragile, a constant dance of pursuit and escape. In this world, the forest itself seemed to watch and breathe. Ancient trees grew slowly, their rings capturing time, weather, and the seasons in every layer. Fallen logs became homes for insects and small reptiles, their decay nourishing new growth in an endless cycle. The lost forests shaped the evolution of the dinosaurs within them. Adaptations like camouflaged feathers, keen senses, and silent footsteps were honed in these shaded corridors. Some species became specialists living only in these dense woods, perfectly suited to the filtered light and complex terrain. Paleontologists today find clues to these forests in fossilized wood, leaf impressions, and pollen grains buried in sediment. These silent witnesses tell stories of climates warmer and wetter than today, of ecosystems thriving before a world transformed by ice ages and extinction. The guardians of these forests remind us that dinosaurs were not just creatures of open plains or deserts, they were also creatures of deep woods and shaded groves. Their lives intertwined with the rhythms of these lost forests, where every leaf and branch played a part in the story. As you imagine walking beneath the canopy, feel the quiet strength of the trees, the rustle of leaves, and the gentle steps of these ancient giants. The lost forests remain a testament to life's resilience, a world where dinosaurs were both rulers and protectors, living in harmony with the land. The story of these guardians is a story of survival, adaptation, and connection, a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, life finds a way to thrive and inspire. Chapter 24 Twilight of the Giants. As the ancient sun began its slow descent beyond vast prehistoric horizons, a profound transformation unfolded across the earth, an era quietly closing its chapter. known to us as the twilight of the giants. This wasn't a sudden catastrophe, but a long, complex farewell whispered by the shifting climates, trembling volcanoes, and ever-changing landscapes. The colossal dinosaurs, rulers of land and sky for millions of years, now faced their greatest challenge: surviving a world in turmoil. Imagine standing on a windswept plain where once great herds of herbivorous dinosaurs, hadrosaurs, ceratopsians, and mighty sauropods roamed in majestic numbers. Now the grass is sparse and the trees fewer, the vast buffet they relied on steadily shrinking. Each step forward is a cautious one, as these giants sense the shifting balance between life and scarcity. The air feels charged, thick with tension and uncertainty. This twilight was not an overnight event, but a slow, relentless process. Over thousands, even millions of years, volcanic eruptions painted the skies with ash and fire, blotting out the sun and cooling the Earth's surface. These fiery outbursts reshaped entire continents, leaving scars visible even today. Climate patterns shifted dramatically. Some regions plunged into drought while others flooded, fragmenting habitats and forcing creatures to adapt rapidly or face extinction. Amidst this changing world, survival was a test of resilience and adaptability. Predators once confident in their power found their prey scarcer and landscapes unfamiliar. The famous Tyrannosaurus rex, the apex predator of its time, faced an increasingly hostile environment, while herds of Triceratops and Edmontosaurus grew. Smaller and more scattered, their migrations shortened and their numbers thinned. Yet, even as resources dwindled and danger loomed, life persisted with astonishing tenacity. New evolutionary paths emerged. Small mammals, long overshadowed by dinosaurs, began to diversify and explore niches left open by the giants. Early birds, descendants of feathered dinosaurs, took to the skies in greater numbers, their delicate wings a symbol of new beginnings. The twilight also marked the gradual unraveling of ancient ecosystems. Forests receded, wetlands dried, vast inland seas drained away, transforming lush habitats into arid deserts. Each change was a note in nature's symphony of transition, sometimes gentle, sometimes violent, but always shaping the destiny of life on Earth. Then came the ultimate crescendo, the asteroid impact, a cosmic event that forever altered the planet's course. The collision unleashed unimaginable force: wildfires, tsunamis, and a nuclear winter effect that plunged the world into darkness. Within a relatively short time, nearly 75% of Earth's species vanished, including the non-avian dinosaurs. But extinction was not an end, it was a beginning. The giants' fall created space for life to diversify and flourish anew. Mammals evolved rapidly, filling niches that had been inaccessible for millions of years. Birds soared higher, oceans teemed with new forms of life, and flowering plants transformed landscapes, setting the stage for the world we know today. Reflecting on the twilight of the giants teaches us about resilience amid change. It's a story of adaptation and transformation, how life bends but does not break, how endings birth beginnings, and how the legacy of these magnificent creatures lives on through time. Fossils etched in stone and imprints preserved in sediment are echoes from that time-silent storytellers of a world both familiar and alien. They remind us that these giants, once dominant and seemingly invincible, were part of a vast and ever-changing tapestry of life. As the last rays of the prehistoric sun fade, we are left with awe and respect. The twilight of the giants is more than a chapter in Earth's history. It is a timeless tale of survival, loss, and the enduring pulse of life that connects us all. So when you look to the skies or walk beneath the trees, remember the giants. Their story is woven into the very fabric of our planet, a testament to nature's power, beauty, and endless capacity for renewal. Chapter 25. The Eternal Dawn. As the first light of a new day breaks over the ancient world, it carries with it more than just warmth. It carries the promise of life renewed, of stories reborn, and of a future forever shaped by those who came before. The eternal dawn is not just the start of another day. It is a timeless symbol of hope, continuity, and the incredible resilience woven into the fabric of life itself. Picture the prehistoric landscape bathed in soft golden hues, the gentle rustling of leaves, the first songs of early birds, and the cautious footsteps of creatures beginning their day. This peaceful awakening is a moment of quiet celebration, a tribute to the long, winding journey from the age of giants to the world we inhabit today. The dinosaurs, once rulers of Earth's vast realms, may have vanished, but their legacy is far from gone. In every feathered bird that soars overhead, in the intricate dance of ecosystems, and in the ever-turning cycles of nature, their spirit endures. Their story is etched deep within the Earth's memory, a living thread that connects past, present, and future. This eternal dawn reminds us that life is a story of constant evolution, a beautiful, unpredictable dance where endings give way to beginnings. It teaches us to cherish every moment, to marvel at the wonders around us, and to recognize the extraordinary journey that has brought us here. As you listen to the gentle sounds of this awakening world, feel the pulse of life that transcends time. The quiet footsteps of ancient ancestors echo softly, reminding us that we are part of something vast and enduring. The eternal dawn is an invitation to look forward with hope, inspired by the resilience of those who walked the earth long before. Use so, as the sun rises higher and the world stirs, carry with you the lessons of the past, the strength, adaptability, and beauty of life's endless dawn. The story of dinosaurs is not just history. It is a living, breathing legacy that continues to inspire wonder and ignite the imagination. And with this eternal dawn, our journey through time comes to a close, but the adventure of discovery, awe, and connection is just beginning. Predators ruled here as well, their survival honed by countless generations in this watery labyrinth. Some stalked silently along the river's edge, waiting for the perfect moment to lunge at unsuspecting prey. Others glided just beneath the surface, their bodies camouflaged against the murky depths. For the creatures of this river, every moment was a delicate balance between hunter and hunted, a timeless dance that had played out in these waters for millions of years. In the modern world, places like this are rare. But in the age of the dinosaurs, rivers like this were lifelines, feeding not just the bodies of the creatures who lived here, but the very engine of evolution itself. This particular river, however, was something more. It was a place where extinction hadn't caught up yet. A place where ancient species could still breathe, breed, and battle for survival in a world that had moved on without them. And in the shadows of its winding channels, hidden among the reeds and sunken logs, lived one of the most fearsome hunters the river had ever known, a predator so well adapted to this ancient waterway that it had become the undisputed ruler of its depths. A predator that would one day vanish forever, leaving behind only fragments of its bones. And the legend of the river that time forgot. Chapter 4. The Song of the Swamp. It is dawn in the ancient world, and a mist curls low over a vast marshland. The air is heavy, sweet with the scent of damp vegetation, and every breath carries the earthy perfume of wet soil. The swamp is not silent, far from it. Before the first light has fully broken the horizon, the wetlands come alive in a chorus. Unlike anything on Earth today, deep, resonant bellows ripple through the morning air, the calls of colossal creatures stirring from the shadows. Their voices are joined by the soft splash of water as long-necked herbivores wade through the shallows, reeds brushing against their flanks. Somewhere in the distance, a low, haunting hum rises, a sound that vibrates through your bones more than it rings in your ears. It is a song that has echoed here for millions of years. The swamp is a sanctuary, but it is also a theater. Its waters shimmer with the ripples of movement, not just from dinosaurs, but from ancient fish, massive dragonflies, and crocodile-like predators lurking beneath the surface. The vegetation here is lush, towering ferns stretching toward the sky, their fronds forming green cathedrals above the water. Brightly colored flowers bloom along the banks, their petals glistening with dew. These blooms attract small feathered dinosaurs, each chirping in rapid staccato rhythms as they dart from stalk to stalk. The air is thick with the droning buzz of insects, a constant background hum to the swamp's living orchestra. But the true stars of this symphony are the giants, duck-billed hadrosaurs that lift their heads toward the morning sun, their crested skulls acting as natural resonators. When they call, the sound is deep, warm, and almost musical, as though the swamp itself is breathing in harmony with them. Some produce mournful, low-pitched moans that roll across the water like thunder, while others emit higher, almost flute-like tones. These calls are not just noise. They are messages, warnings, invitations, and declarations of dominance. For creatures in the swamp, sound is as vital as sight or smell. Predators, too, add their voices to the morning chorus. A distant roar cuts across the air, sharp and guttural, from a theropod hidden among the ferns. It is not the loudest sound in the swamp, but it carries an unmistakable tension, a reminder that in this paradise, danger is always near. The smaller creatures freeze for a moment, listening, before the symphony resumes. This constant interplay between predator and prey gives the swamp its pulse, its ever-shifting rhythm. By midday, the soundscape changes. The bellows of the hadrosaurs soften into low murmurs, replaced by the slap of tails in the shallows as crocodilian predators bask and hunt. The buzzing of insects intensifies in the warm, heavy air, blending with the plop of fish breaking the surface. Water birds, primitive ancestors of today's herons and cranes, stalk through the reeds, their sharp beaks plunging into the water with precision. Each movement, each sound, is part of a larger composition, one that has no conductor, yet always feels perfectly in time. And then comes night. The swamp's day song fades, replaced by the mysterious melodies of the dark. Strange croaks and clicks echo from unseen creatures. Winged reptiles, gliding under the moonlight, let out sharp, high-pitched cries. Somewhere deep in the marsh, an unseen animal emits a long, eerie wail, a sound that chills even the apex predators. The swamp, now bathed in silver light, hums and murmurs in a way that is almost hypnotic. It is a lullaby and a warning, a reminder that life here is as beautiful as it is fragile. In this ancient wetland, every note, every call, is part of a story millions of years in the making. The swamp does not simply exist, it sings. And its song is one of survival, connection, and the timeless rhythm of life itself. Chapter 5. Under the fern canopy, soft orchestral music swells. Gentle flutes mimic bird calls, while a distant rumble of wind drifts through unseen treetops. Narrator. Calm, immersive tone. Long before flowers painted the earth with color, before bees hummed between blossoms, there were the ferns. They rose like green cathedrals, their leaves unfolding in intricate spirals, catching what little sunlight managed to filter down through the thick forest crown. These were ancient giants, tree ferns, and towering conifers, older than any dinosaur, older even than the first birds. Here, in this shadowed world, life was slow and deliberate. Sunlight trickled to the forest floor in thin golden threads, shifting and swaying. As the canopy moved in the breeze, the air was damp, heavy with the scent of moss and resin. Each breath carried a hint of water from the countless streams and trickling springs weaving between roots. Somewhere in the distance, the low, resonant call of a herbivore echoed, deep, almost mournful, vibrating through the trees like a drumbeat. It was a warning, but not of panic. More like a reminder that even in this peaceful place, danger could walk on silent feet. Beneath the towering green roof, small dinosaurs thrived. Hypsilophodons darted between the fronds, their slender legs carrying them in bursts of speed as they foraged for tender shoots. Tiny lizards clung to moss-covered trunks, blinking slowly, their eyes catching the faint shafts of sunlight dot above. Hidden in the branches, feathered shapes shuffled quietly. Early birds, not much bigger than crows, hunted insects among the fern leaves, their iridescent feathers glinting faintly in the dim light. Occasionally, a sudden flutter broke the stillness, followed by the sharp, quick chip of alarm. But the true rulers of this place weren't the hunters. They were the plants. Ferns blanketed the ground in endless carpets, their fronds swaying gently with the humid breeze. Horsetails grew like green spears near the water's edge. Massive cycads, with thick armored trunks, rose like ancient sentinels, their crowns spreading wide. This was a world designed for stillness, a place where life did not rush. Still, even here, danger had its shadows. A sudden silence, the birds stopped calling. The air felt heavier. Somewhere between the trunks, a shadow moved, slow, deliberate, purposeful. A predator. Not the roaring tyrants of open plains, but a ghost of the forest. Its steps were quiet, padded. Its gaze was fixed, and yet, most of the time, the peace held. Here, in the filtered green light, dinosaurs drank from cool streams. Young played between tree roots, and ancient dragonflies, the size of hawks, drifted lazily above the still pools. When the wind blew through the canopy, the sound was like the ocean, a deep rushing wave that rolled overhead. And when it rained, and it rained often, the forest came alive in 1,000 tiny rivers, water dripping and cascading down every fern, every trunk, every moss-covered stone. This was a place where time itself felt slower. A world sheltered under green leaves that had been growing for hundreds of millions of years. Music fades into a single soft note, like a breath through a flute. Narrator. Under the fern canopy, life endured. Quiet, patient, eternal. Chapter 6. Sky shadows. The air above the prehistoric world was never still. It was alive with movement. The slow drift of clouds, the shimmer of heat, the whisper of winds carrying scents from forests and seas. But dominating these ancient skies were creatures unlike anything alive today, the pterosaurs. Not dinosaurs, yet their companions in time. These masters of the air painted graceful arcs across the heavens, leaving only their shadows to ripple over the landscapes below. Imagine standing in a clearing over 90 million years ago. The air is thick and warm, the light tinged with gold from a late afternoon sun. Somewhere beyond the tree line, a faint splash echoes from a winding river. Then, before your eyes can find the source, a shadow glides silently over the fern-strewn ground at your feet, huge, outstretched, with wings tapering to sharp tips. You look up, and there it is, a pterosaur, its leathery wings catching thermals as it circles lazily above. Their flight was nothing like the frantic flapping of modern birds. Pterosaurs were creatures of the wind, their long wings shaped for efficiency, their movements deliberate. They could rise effortlessly on warm air currents, soaring for hours without a single beat of their wings. From high above, they saw the world in ways no dinosaur could, the slow swaying of tree canopies, the glitter of rivers cutting through the land, the shifting herds moving like living shadows below. Some, like the giant Quetzalcoatlus, were aerial titans, their wingspan stretching longer than a small airplane's, their beaks long and sharp for snatching prey from water or land. Others were delicate, no larger than a crow, darting between trees or skimming insects from the surface of lakes. Their diversity was staggering, each shape adapted perfectly to its niche. But flight was not just a way to move. It was a strategy for survival. From the safety of the skies, pterosaurs could scout for food, watch for predators, and travel vast distances without tiring. The oceans were particularly generous hunting grounds. Some species would wheel above the waves, folding their wings and diving to snatch fish in a quick, precise strike. Others lingered near coastal cliffs, nesting in precarious colonies, where the air was thick with the beating of wings and the cries of hungry young. Life in the sky had its quiet dramas. A lone pterosaur drifting above a plain could be shadowed by another, the two locked in a slow, silent chase for the best feeding ground. Males during the breeding season would display striking head crests, catching the sunlight as they banked and turned, a visual dance meant to impress watching. Females below. From the ground they were a marvel, yet perhaps even more impressive was the view they themselves commanded. As they soared over swamps and forests, the world must have stretched endlessly beneath them. Herds of hadrosaurs moving through open meadows became slow, pulsing patterns. Forests appeared as shifting oceans of green. Even storms darkened. Heavy with rain would roll in as massive walls across the horizon, forcing them to ride the wind ahead of the downpour or risk being thrown from the sky. At dusk, the sky changed. Colors deepened to amber and purple, and pterosaur silhouettes became sharper against the fading light. The air cooled, the thermals weakened, and one by one, these ancient flyers would descend, some to cliff ledges, some to sandy shores, and others to the broad branches of ancient conifers. Their day in the air was over, but the memory of their passage lingered in the minds of those who had seen their shadows drift silently across the land. In the world of dinosaurs, where the ground often shook with the weight of giants, the sky belonged to another dynasty entirely, one that lived and died by the wind, and whose kingdom was measured not in miles of earth, but in the endless vault of blue above. The pterosaurs ruled this realm, their reign written not in footprints, but in shadows. Chapter 7, Desert Wanderers. The desert is not a place that gives easily. It is a place of heat that shimmers like a mirage, of winds that sing through empty valleys, and of nights so cold they seem to steal your breath away. Yet, in a time long before human footprints touched its sands, the deserts of Earth were alive. Not with camels or lizards, but with dinosaurs. And not just any dinosaurs, these were survivors, shaped by the dry and restless land into quiet masters of endurance. Picture it. The sun is a pale, swollen disk above a horizon of rippling dunes. The air wavers as if the world itself is melting. Somewhere in the distance, a low shape moves with deliberate slowness, a long-necked sauropod, its shadow stretched thin across the sand. Its hide is the color of baked clay, a camouflage that makes it almost invisible in the glare. Each step presses deep into the powdery soil, leaving behind round footprints that will be erased by the next gust of wind. These creatures, like Nigersaurus and Yobaria, were built for scarcity. Their necks allowed them to sweep across dry shrubs without wasting energy on unnecessary movement. They didn't chase, they waited. They didn't sprint, they wandered. In a land where water could hide underground for weeks or months, patience was their greatest weapon. Even the smaller desert dwellers learned this lesson. Tiny bird-like theropods would dart from the shadow of one rock to another, their feathers dusted with a film of fine sand. They kept low, using the meager shade to hide from the merciless sun. Every sound, a pebble rolling, a faint hiss of shifting dunes, could be the warning of a predator or the whisper of prey. The days here were not filled with constant action, but with a slow, careful rhythm. A herd of plant-eaters might travel for miles without finding a single patch of greenery, then spend hours grazing quietly on a rare cluster of ferns growing in the lee of a stone ridge. The predators, like Deltadromus, did not chase without reason. They stalked with patience, conserving every breath, every heartbeat, until the moment to strike truly mattered. And then came the wind. When the sandstorms rose, the entire world changed. Curtains of dust swallowed the sky, turning day into a dim twilight. The wanderers would huddle together, closing their eyes against the grit. Some crouched low in shallow hollows. Others stood still, letting the storm pass over them like a slow-moving tide. In those moments, the desert claimed its silence again, the roar of wind the only sound for miles. But when the storm cleared, the world smelled fresh. The sky returned in a deep, cloudless blue. Sometimes in the aftermath, the ground shimmered with tiny puddles, caught in the hollows of rocks. Dinosaurs knew these moments well. They would move quickly toward the glistening water, lapping at it before the sun could steal it away. Life in the desert was never easy, but it was honest. It required strength, yes, but more than that. It demanded the ability to wait, to move with the seasons, to survive on less than others thought possible. The desert wanderers were proof that even in the harshest places, life could find a way. Their days were long, their pace unhurried, and their eyes always on the horizon. When night fell, the heat bled away into the dark. The sands cooled under a canopy of stars so sharp they looked like they could pierce the skin. The wanderers rested, their breathing slow, their bodies curled against the cold. And out there, in the vast silence, their kind endured for millions of years, the patient travelers of an ancient, endless desert. Chapter 8. The Ocean's Gentle Giants. The ocean moves in a rhythm older than memory. From the surface, it looks like a shifting plate of glass, blue, silver, sometimes green, broken only by the ripple of wind or the trace of a passing fin. But below that skin, the world opens into a vast and patient life, a slow, underwater cathedral where giants glide as if in a dream. Picture sunlight spilling through 100 feet of water, breaking into long wavering shafts that reach toward the seafloor. In those shafts, dust like plankton pulses and tiny fish flash like sparks. The light sways, the colors soften. And then, from the dim blue, a shape appears, long-necked, elegant, moving with a serenity that feels almost human. That is a plesiosaur, a creature built like a living sailboat, a compact, sturdy body and 4 broad flippers that move with a slow, rowing rhythm. It cuts through the water not with haste, but with purpose, each stroke carrying it forward through the ocean's hush. Around it, the sea is full of other lives, ichthyosaurs, sleek as living arrows, their tails slashing with quiet power. Mosasaurs, that, when they move, remind you of a slow, deliberate predator that chooses conservation over frenzy. And elasmosaurs, necks like flexible ropes that drift through kelp forests as if feeling for the currents. None of them hurry. Here, speed is used carefully, reserve kept for a strike or for a sudden migration. Most of the time the giants travel by the law of economy, letting thermoclines and currents do the work. Listen with your imagination. What does the ocean sound like from inside? Not the loud crash of waves on a shore, but a soft, constant pressure. The muffled whoosh of water, the tiny clicks of crustaceans brushing the sand, the low, distant thrum of large animals' movement, felt in the ribs more than heard. When a plesiosaur breathes at the surface, it is a small disturbance, a ring of bubbles, a faint spray, and then the gentle subsiding of water. Those sounds travel differently here. They arrive slower, like secrets passing through a heavy curtain. The sea was a quilt of habitats. Nearshore waters held kelp-like forests and shallow reefs, places where ammonites and belemnites spiraled like living ornaments, where ancient turtles paddled slowly and fish darted between coral branches. In those tangled, light-flecked gardens, a smaller plesiosaur might hunt ceaselessly for shimmering fish, nose flicking, neck arcing, guiding its head into the shimmer to pluck a meal with exquisite care. The feeding is ballet-like, an economy of motion learned through long experience. Farther offshore, where the water grew deep and the blue thickened, larger creatures ruled. Mosasaurs, powerful, long-bodied, with jaws built for variety, drifted through open water. They could erupt into short bursts of speed when they chose, but often they patrolled in broad, slow arcs, letting the sea's invisible highways carry them toward meals and mates. Imagine turning gently in a current, watching a school of silvery fish scatter like a cloud. The mosasaur does not always charge. Sometimes it follows, waits, and lets the moment come to it. Life here was not a brutal constant of frenzy. It was a series of calibrated choices. When food was abundant, animals fed. When the ocean calmed, they floated. When storms rolled in, the giants rode the underside of the turbulence, finding shelter in deeper water or turning with the wind. The sea demanded a kind of wisdom, to know when to conserve and when to move, when to dive deep and when to ride the warm surface currents that carried food like invisible rivers. Asterisk. Night in the Cretaceous Sea was another kind of wonder. Surface light fades and the ocean's own lanterns begin. Plankton and tiny organisms glowed like distant stars, and as animals moved, they would stir pockets of light into being, luminous. Wake trailing a plesiosaur's flipper, a curtain of glow cascading from a tail. This bioluminescence turned ordinary movement into something magical, the giants moving through a sky of stars. But the sky was liquid and the constellations drifted with their passage. It was easy to imagine, in those moments, that the ocean itself was thinking and breathing through these lights. Reproduction and raising young were quiet dramas largely hidden from the human eye, but no less poignant. Some marine reptiles gave live birth. Fossil embryos and pregnant specimens suggest that at least certain lineages never had to clamber onto land to lay eggs. Imagine a mother sliding through the twilight blue, her movements careful, guiding a newborn in a world that is both nursery and classroom. Other species may have come ashore to nest, returning to the water heavier but determined. In both cases, the bond between guardian and offspring is soft, teaching the young where to find food, how to read the currents, when to dive and when to surface. Those hush lessons are the reason so many of these species endured across vast stretches of time. Ocean was also a place of migrations that spanned continents. Currents run like highways through the deep, and the gentle giants followed them. Sometimes they traveled in loose groups, social clusters that drifted a season's course together before scattering again. At other times, a solitary leviathan would roam for months, following the bloom of plankton or the shifting swarms of small fish, a pilgrimage written in salt and current lines. You can almost see them on a map, dark shapes tracing delicate lines across the open blue, moving from warm seas to cooler feeding grounds and back again. Predation was present, but even that had an elegance. A mosasaur closing on prey might accelerate, pivot, and finish the hunt in a quick, efficient flash, leaving the rest of its time for leisure. Sharks, less famous than the mosasaurs but present in many seas, patrolled too, their primitive jaws searching. Yet kills were not always violent spectacles. Often they were quick, and then the sea returned to its hush. Scavengers, fish, small reptiles, and opportunistic creatures would circle leftover meals, returning balance to the system in a slow, reliable way. There were seasons to the sea as well. Warmer times fed blooms that rose like green smoke, bringing with them clouds of food that attracted giants in masses. Cooler seasons tightened resources, changed routes, and pushed herds into narrower corridors. These cycles made the ocean an arena of patient adaptation, where life alternated between abundance and austerity, and species that learned the rhythm thrived. And then there were the edges, places where sea met land in ragged cliffs and gentle beaches. Here, life met in overlapping rhythms. Birds, small feathered creatures that dared skim the water, followed the pterosaur's shadows. Coastal reptiles nested. Turtles sunbathed on pockets of beach. Storms could uproot these fragile intersections, but they also renewed the world. Nutrients washed into shallows, fish spawned, and the entire food web breathed with fresh life. The ocean's memory is long. Fossil beds show us snapshots, articulated skeletons laid out like sleeping ships, ammonite spirals preserved in stone, the trace of scales and teeth in sediments that were once seabeds. Each fossil is a silent page from a book of tides, telling of journeys, births, losses, and ordinary days moving slowly beneath the waves. But the real story is less about bones and more about motion, the slow fluting of flippers, the patient glide of a neck, the tiny bubble that marks a breath. And you, listening now, are part of that story in a small way. As you imagine the gentle giants gliding past and leaving bioluminescent wakes behind them, you are joining the ocean in a quiet, shared rhythm. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the pressure of deep water, the softness of a flipper passing, the lull of the current. Let the slow breaths of these giants match your own. Let the sea's patient pulse guide your breathing down. Slow and steady. The ocean always keeps its secrets, but occasionally it lets us in the glow of plankton, the drift of a plesiosaur, the slow turning of a mosasaur's tail. These are not creatures of panic or relentless hunger. They are creatures of presence. They move with a dignity born from the sea's vastness, and that dignity, even now, is a kind of comfort. One final thing. Think of the rhythms the sea taught them and the rhythms they taught the sea. Currents learned paths where bodies moved comfortably. Reefs grew where creatures fed and food chains balanced in delicate ways. Life in the ocean was a conversation, slow, continuous, and ultimately kinder than the sudden violence our imaginations sometimes expect. As the chapter draws to a close, picture a final scene. The sky dimming to go, the surface rippling. In low starlight, a mother plesiosaur surfaces, takes a breath, and dives once more. Her young follow close, their small flippers beating in time. Around them, the glow of tiny organisms flickers like distant lanterns. The gentle giants move on, measured and eternal, guardians of a world that carried on in silence long after their shadows passed above the waves, and somewhere far beyond the reach of our eyes, the ocean still remembers their passage in stone, in shell, and in the endless, slow-moving blue. Chapter 9, Footprints in Time. There is something profoundly moving about standing before a set of fossilized footprints. They're not just impressions in stone, they're echoes of moments long vanished, preserved by chance and time. Each step is a frozen heartbeat, a fragment of a journey taken millions of years ago by a creature whose bones may be long gone, but whose presence is still written in the earth. Paleontologists call these ancient imprints. Ichthyofossils trace fossils that record activity rather than anatomy. And though they may seem simple compared to a towering skeleton in a museum, they often reveal far more about an animal's life than bones ever could. Bones can tell us what a dinosaur looked like. Footprints can tell us what it did. Imagine this scene, a wide, muddy riverbank during the late Jurassic. The sun is low, painting the water in gold. A small herd of sauropods, colossal long-necked giants, wait along the edge, leaving deep, circular impressions in the soft sediment. Not far away, a lone theropod stalks in the shadows, its three-toed prints slicing into the mud in a straight, purposeful line. The air smells of wet earth and vegetation. Then, as quickly as it came, this moment passes. The animals move on. Rain falls, silt covers their tracks. Time seals them away. Millions of years later, erosion peels back the layers, and a human hand brushes away the dust to reveal a single footprint, a perfect mirror of a moment that happened before humanity even existed. What footprints reveal? The spacing between prints can tell scientists how fast an animal was moving. Long gaps between steps? It was running. Short, overlapping tracks? It was moving slowly, maybe grazing or searching. The angle of the toes can hint at whether an animal was turning or stalking. Even subtle changes in depth can reveal if it was limping, carrying extra weight, or moving uphill. Some trackways preserve group behavior. At certain fossil sites, Multiple sets of parallel sauropod prints have been found, suggesting they traveled in herds. At others, smaller prints weave between. The larger ones, perhaps juveniles walking alongside parents. And in one extraordinary find in Australia, a set of massive prints runs beside a smaller but equally fast-moving set, possibly evidence of a predator, chasing its prey across a long-forgotten floodplain. Footprints can also record moments of sheer mystery. At the famous Latoli site in Tanzania, not dinosaurs, but ancient human ancestors, scientists found prints of two individuals walking side by side, one occasionally stepping into the other's track. That site is millions of years younger than the dinosaurs, but it drives home the same point. Footprints are stories, locked in stone. The poetry of absence. Sometimes the most haunting thing about fossil footprints is what's not there. You'll see a trail begin and then vanish. Maybe the animal stepped onto firmer ground. Maybe a predator attacked. Maybe the creature took to the air, leaving behind only the last few prints before they lift and disappear forever. There's a quiet poetry to that, the knowledge that the moment we're glimpsing is incomplete, that our understanding is built on fragments, and that the rest of the story is lost to time. Yet even in their incompleteness, footprints connect us to life that was once here, moving across a landscape that has since changed beyond recognition. Sites where time still walks. Some of the most breathtaking dinosaur trackways can still be seen today. The Paluxy River, Texas, where the prints of Acrocanthosaurus and massive sauropods run side by side in the exposed riverbed. Dinosaur Ridge, Colorado, a mountainside where countless three-toed theropod prints march across tilted slabs of stone, as if the dinosaurs were still mid-journey when the ground froze in time. Lark Quarry, Australia, possibly the scene of a dinosaur stampede, with hundreds of small prints scattering in chaotic directions. Standing at these places, you can feel the weight of history pressing against you. Not the abstract kind you read about in books, but the raw physical truth that here, right here, a living creature once walked, ran, hunted, or fled. Asterisk. The eternal step. We often think of fossils as dead things, but footprints are, in a way, alive. They capture not death, but life in motion. Every print is an action, a choice, a fragment of a life. And while we'll never know the full story of the creatures who left them, these marks in stone remind us that they were here, and that their world was as real and vivid to them as ours is to us. Time will keep erasing and revealing. Rivers will cut through rock, winds will sweep away soil, and somewhere, under a quiet hillside, a set of footprints is waiting. Waiting for the day they rise back into the sun, and once again, someone will stand in awe of the path a dinosaur walked countless ages ago. Chapter 10, The Last Sunset. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of lush greenery, and the world is still alive with the sounds of a thriving prehistoric paradise. Cicadas trill. Distant herbivores call to one another in low, resonant bellows. Above, the late Cretaceous sky glows a deep amber, the sun hanging low like a molten coin. It is a scene that has played out countless times before. Sunsets have been falling on this earth for billions of years. But for the dinosaurs, this one marks the twilight of an era they could never have known was ending. For over 160 million years, they ruled this planet. They were not just creatures of brute strength or primal instinct, they were survivors. They weathered climate shifts, volcanic upheavals, and mass extinctions before. The Earth had changed, but the dinosaurs endured, adapting to each new challenge. There was no reason to believe that this time would be any different. And yet, the sun setting tonight is one of the last they will ever see. Far to the west, in the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, a rock the size of a city is hurtling through space. It has traveled for millions of years, silent, unseen. Within hours, it will tear through the atmosphere, brighter than the sun, hotter than the surface of a star. It will strike with the force of billions of nuclear bombs, sending shockwaves racing around the world. But here, for now in this golden moment before the catastrophe, the dinosaurs graze and hunt and live blissfully unaware. A mother triceratops nudges her calf toward a patch of ferns, her massive frill casting a long shadow in the fading light. A tyrannosaurus, its eyes catching the sun like twin shards of amber, watches from the edge of the forest. Neither knows that tomorrow will bring firestorms, that the very sky will rain molten glass, that darkness will fall for months. The great forests will wither, the seas will acidify, and the chain of life will shatter. The asteroid will not just take the dinosaurs, it will take 75% of all life on Earth. It will erase entire ecosystems, leaving the survivors to inherit a world of ash and silence. And yet, the end is not the end. The great reptiles will fall, but their legacy will take flight, literally, in the small, feathered creatures that escape extinction. The birds in our skies today are not just descendants of dinosaurs, they are dinosaurs. Their songs are the echoes of an ancient world, their wings the remnants of a kingdom that once ruled every corner of the earth. So as the last sunlight of the Mesozoic era washes over the land, it is not just a sunset, it is a farewell. A curtain closing on one of the most extraordinary chapters in the planet's history. The Tyrannosaurus lifts its head, sniffing the warm air, eyes scanning the horizon one last time. The Triceratops calf leans against its mother. The sun dips. Below the horizon, the sky deepens to crimson, and the world holds its breath. Tomorrow, the age of giants will end. But life fragile, stubborn, miraculous life will find a way to begin again. Chapter 11 Whispering Volcanoes. Long before humans traced the first words in the sand, before cities rose and seas were mapped, the earth was a restless storyteller. Its voice was deep and slow, carried in the rumble of shifting stone far beneath the surface. In the age of the dinosaurs, that voice often came from the volcanoes, not always with roaring fire and violent ash, but in quiet, patient whispers that only those who lived close could hear. The land itself seemed alive. Beneath lush fern forests and winding rivers, magma moved in unseen rivers of heat. Some volcanoes lay sleeping for centuries, their slopes softened by moss and flowering plants. Others murmured faintly, exhaling wisps of steam from cracks in their flanks. To the dinosaurs who roamed these lands, the volcano was not an enemy. It was simply part of the world, as constant as the wind or the turning of the seasons. On a humid morning in what would one day be called South America, a herd of Saltosaurus grazed along the edge of a volcanic plain. Their massive feet pressed deep into the soft, mineral-rich soil, nourished by centuries of ashfalls that had transformed the ground into fertile pasture. Tiny mammals darted between the giants' legs, foraging for seeds and insects, unbothered by the slow tremors that pulsed beneath them like a heartbeat. A few miles away, a pteranodon circled lazily over a crater lake, its still waters shimmering in the sunlight. Steam curled upward where hot springs bubbled to the surface, carrying with them the scent of minerals. These were calm lands now, but the stories embedded in the rock told of older, more violent days, of molten rivers carving new valleys, of skies turned dark by drifting ash. Not all volcanoes were bringers of destruction. Many were quiet architects of life. Their ash enriched the soil, their heat warmed hidden springs where amphibians bred, and their slopes provided shelter from storms. The dinosaurs knew nothing of tectonic plates or mantle plumes, but they knew the signs, the change in the smell of the air, the sudden restlessness of the ground, the way birds fell silent before the earth's voice grew louder. At dusk, the whispers deepened. Low rumbles echoed across the plain, so faint that only the most attuned creatures noticed. A Therizinosaurus, its long claws glinting in the fading light, paused in its search for leaves and turned its head toward the distant peak. The mountain did not erupt. It simply breathed, a slow exhalation of steam, like the sigh of an ancient being content to remain at rest a little longer. Night fell, and the volcano's slopes glowed faintly under the moonlight, painted in silver. And shadow. From the nearby forest, the calls of distant predators drifted through the air, but the volcano remained unmoved, its quiet presence a reminder that the world's greatest forces are not always loud. Sometimes they speak in murmurs, shaping life in ways that only become clear across centuries. The dinosaurs would live and die under these watchful peaks, never knowing that in some far future, humans would stand where they stood, reading the same rocky pages and hearing the same whispers in the earth. The volcanoes would still be there, telling their patient stories, as they had since the dawn of time. Chapter 12. The meadow before time. The air is soft and warm, carrying with it the delicate perfume of ancient blooms. The sun, a golden disk, hangs low in the sky, draping the land in a haze of amber light. Before you stretches a meadow so vast, it seems to merge with the horizon itself, a green sea, swaying gently under the touch of a mild prehistoric breeze. Grass here is not quite like the grass you know. These are the earliest cousins of the blades that cover modern fields taller, wilder, their seed heads crowned with feathery plumes that catch the sunlight and turn it into a glittering mist. Tiny flowers, soft as silk, peek between the stalks, pale yellows, dusky purples, and the occasional white so bright it seems to glow. Each bloom sways slightly, as if breathing. Far off you hear the faint rhythm of footsteps, not hurried, not fearful, just steady, peaceful. A small herd of prehistoric grazers emerges from the shimmering haze. They are Dinosaurs, elegant plant-eaters with slender necks and alert, intelligent eyes. Their skin is a patchwork of soft greens and browns, blending perfectly into the meadow around them. The smallest one, no taller than your chest, trots close to its mother, occasionally pausing to nibble at a tender stem. The air hums with life. Cicada-like insects, larger than any you've seen today, chirp in deep, resonant tones, their wings shimmering like stained glass in the sun. A gentle breeze carries the scent of warm earth and sweet grass across your senses, as if the land itself is breathing, whispering an ancient lullaby. Above, in the powder blue sky, slow shapes drift, pterosaurs riding invisible currents. They are far, far away, their wings barely moving, each one tracing a lazy circle over the meadow as if guarding this tranquil place from above. Occasionally, one tilts its head downward, its long beak glinting, before catching another current and gliding onward. The Dinosaurus herd grazes together in quiet companionship. One pauses, lifting its head to look around, chewing slowly. Its breath puffs faintly in the warm light, catching dust motes that dance in the air like tiny sparks. With a gentle swish of its tail, it returns to feeding. You walk further into the meadow, feeling the soft press of the earth beneath your feet. The ground here is alive, each step releases the faint scent of crushed greenery. Somewhere nearby, water trickles, a faint silver sound. You follow it, and soon find a narrow stream winding lazily through the grass. Its surface mirrors the gold of the sky, broken only by drifting petals and the occasional ripple from a curious fish. A pair of small, bird-like dinosaurs, Confuciusornis, flit down to the water's edge. They are no bigger than modern crows, but their tails fan out into long streamers of delicate feathers. They dip their beaks in the water, sending ripples outward, then flit back into the tall grass, vanishing as quickly as they appeared. The warmth of the day begins to mellow. Shadows stretch long across the meadow. The Dinosaurus herd shifts slightly, moving toward the shelter of a grove at the meadow's edge. The sound of their slow, deliberate steps blends with the breeze in the grass until it all becomes a single gentle rhythm. The insects sing louder now, as if to mark the closing of the day. In the distance, the pterosaurs tilt their wings toward the horizon, gliding away to roost. A deep sense of peace settles over the land. The air grows cooler, and the scent of the flowers turns sweeter in the fading light. The meadow holds its breath for a moment, as if caught between day and night. The last slanting rays of sunlight bathe everything in gold, turning each blade of grass into a shining thread, each droplet on each flower into a tiny jewel. It feels as though time itself slows here, stretching, lingering, unwilling to move forward. And then the first stars begin to appear. The herd has reached the grove. They stand in a loose circle, resting, their bodies outlined by the pale silver of the moon's light. The grass sways gently around them. The breeze softens to nothing. Even the insects seem to sing more quietly, as though the meadow itself is drifting into a dream. You take a final breath of this ancient airworm, fragrant, full of life, and let it fill you. The sound of the stream, the rustle of grass, the slow breathing of the Dinosaurus herd, all of it folds into one deep, soothing hum. The meadow before time closes around you like a blanket, timeless and still, holding you in its quiet embrace. Chapter 13. Shadows in the mist. The world was still, as if the night had only just loosened its grip. A cool dampness clung to the air, heavy with the scent of wet earth and leaves. Somewhere far off, the sun was rising, but here in the lowland forest, its light was slow to arrive, choked by a thick blanket of mist. Every surface branches, ferns, even the jagged stones glistened with beads of dew. Shapes began to move in the haze. At first, they seemed like nothing more than shifting patches of shadow, a bend of a neck, the slow lift of a tail, the faint sway of massive forms, pushing gently through the fog. They emerged, not in a rush, but with the same patience as the morning itself, their silhouettes stretching and blurring as they passed between curtains of vapor. The first to appear was a sauropod, enormous, quiet, and steady. Its long neck moved like a drifting branch in the current, and when it paused, the sound was not a call or a stomp, but the soft thud of breath in the chill air. Behind it, smaller figures kept close, their outlines darting in and out of view, each step muffled by the spongy forest floor. Bird calls were rare in these early hours. Instead, there was the occasional rustle of leaves as the giants pushed aside ferns wet with dew. Somewhere beyond the white veil of mist, a stream murmured, its voice muted but steady. Even the water seemed to move slower here, as if the fog had wrapped the entire valley in a gentle spell. Now and then, a figure would vanish entirely, swallowed by the haze, only to reappear a few steps later, closer, larger, clearer, before fading again. The morning mist played tricks, making them seem half real, as though the forest was holding onto its own secrets, revealing only fragments of the truth. A pair of hadrosaurs lingered at the edge of a clearing, their backs faintly glistening in the diffuse light. They lowered their heads to graze on the tender shoots sprouting near a fallen log, unbothered by the watchful quiet. From a ridge above, a smaller predator paused, its silhouette frozen alert, but not yet ready to act. Here, in this pale, dreamlike world, even hunters seemed patient. The fog would not last forever. Slowly, the golden warmth of day began to filter through the canopy, turning the white mists to silver, then to pale gold. Edges sharpened, shadows deepened. What had been ghostly shapes became flesh and bone again, massive creatures, breathing, moving, alive. The forest spell was lifting. And yet, for those few minutes between night and day, it had felt as though the world belonged to shadows. In the mist, time slowed, footsteps softened, and the past and present blurred together like a memory. The earth itself refused to let go. Chapter 14. The Coral Kingdom. Long before the first humans set foot on Earth, when the continents themselves were drifting into the shapes we recognize today, there existed an ocean realm unlike anything in our modern seas. The sunlight filtered down through turquoise shallows, its golden beams dancing across swaying fronds of prehistoric sea plants. Rising from the ocean floor like living fortresses were vast coral reefs, not the same corals we know today, but their ancient relatives, architects of underwater kingdoms in the age of the dinosaurs. The water was warm, cradling life in a gentle embrace. Schools of small, shimmering fish darted between the coral branches, flashing iridescent blues, silvers, and golds before vanishing into the labyrinth of stone-like skeletons. The corals themselves were alive tiny polyps building their colonies. Over centuries, creating sprawling underwater cities that would shelter countless creatures. Among the reefs, marine reptiles glided with effortless grace. Long-necked plesiosaurs drifted past, their heads turning slowly as if inspecting the colorful coral streets. Above them, ichthyosaurs, shaped like sleek dolphins, cut through the water in pursuit of shoals, their streamlined bodies built for speed. Not all inhabitants were large armored fish, small ammonites with swirling shells, and delicate jellyfish pulsed silently through the water, adding texture to this serene underwater ballet. The reef was more than just a home, it was a fortress. Within its nooks, crustaceans scuttled, mollusks clung tightly to the coral walls, and sea stars spread their arms across the sunlit surfaces. Even predators respected the reef's complexity. It offered too many places for prey to vanish in an instant. Every sound here was softened by the water. The muffled clicks of crustaceans, the whisper of fins, and the faint hum of the current combined into a quiet, dreamlike chorus. Shafts of sunlight shimmered on the rippling surface, and each wave cast new patterns of light into the depths. Time seemed slower here, each moment drawn out like the lazy sway of seaweed in the tide. As the day passed, the reef shifted in color and mood. Morning brought pale golds and soft greens, noon flooded it with brilliance, and evening washed everything in gentle blues and purples as the sun's rays grew dim. With nightfall, bioluminescent life awoke, tiny sparks of light drifting through the darkness, turning the coral kingdom into a galaxy beneath the waves. In this ancient world, life flourished in perfect balance. Predators hunted, prey hid, corals grew inch by inch, and the tides whispered their eternal song. Millions of years later, these coral kingdoms would vanish, their skeletons becoming stone, their beauty locked away in the fossil record. Yet in the time of the dinosaurs, they were living palaces of color and calm, thriving under the warm embrace of a prehistoric sea. Chapter 15. Beneath the starlit sky, the day has ended, and the Mesozoic world exhales. The golden heat of the sun retreats beyond the horizon, leaving the vast prehistoric plains awash in a deep, velvety twilight. The air cools, cicad-like insects hum softly in the background, and the silhouettes of towering conifers sway gently against the fading light. Above, the first stars blink into existence, pinpricks of silver in an ancient sky untouched by the lights of cities. Night, in the age of dinosaurs, was a world of subtle beauty, where the drama of predation and survival continued under the watch of the moon. The planet's rotation, unchanged for millions of years, painted a familiar cosmic dome overhead, but the constellations were subtly different, shifted by the slow dance of continents and the drifting of Earth's axis over geological time. Some patterns might still be faintly recognizable to our eyes today, but others belonged only to that vanished world. Down below, a massive Apatosaurus moves with deliberate slowness, her enormous bulk casting a shadow across a shallow riverbank. The water glimmers like a mirror, catching stray starlight and the reflection of the crescent moon. She lowers her head to drink, the surface rippling in lazy circles. Every sound seems amplified, the soft gush of water over stones, the rustle of fern leaves in the night breeze, the distant calls of creatures hidden in the dark. Not far away, smaller dinosaurs are on the move. A pair of Leelinosaura, nocturnal specialists from polar forests, dart between low shrubs. Their large eyes, perfectly adapted to low light, shimmer faintly as they scan for insects and fallen fruits. They pause occasionally, sniffing the cool air, listening for the distant thud of a predator's footsteps out in the darkness. But predators own the advantage. A truden, slender and alert, watches from the shadows. The starlight catches the faint outline of protofeathers along its arms and tail. It makes no sound, moving with the precision of a night hunter. Every step is measured. Every pause is deliberate. Somewhere in the underbrush, a small mammal is foraging, unaware of the sharp intelligence watching from only a few meters away. Overhead, the sky is alive. Bats as we know them have not yet evolved, but other winged creatures, the pterosaurs, glide silently through the air. Their wings catch the moonlight like stretched silver sails. Nyctosaurus, with its long head crest, drifts on warm night currents. Rising from the land, farther out to sea, marine reptiles break the surface to breathe, their exhalation sending mist into the cool night air. The soundtrack of the Mesozoic night is subtle but rich. A chorus of insects forms a constant backdrop, joined by the distant croaks of amphibians and the echoing cries of unknown nocturnal reptiles. Now and then, the stillness is broken by the deep, resonant call of a large herbivore, perhaps a warning to others in the herd, or simply a reassurance in the darkness. The night holds a different kind of danger. Without the warmth of the sun, some smaller dinosaurs slow their movements to conserve heat, becoming sluggish and vulnerable. For them, the starlit sky is both a shield and a risk offering cover from sight, but hiding the movements of things that hunt. And yet, the prehistoric night was not only about fear. It was also a time of calm. Imagine lying beneath a Mesozoic sky, seeing the Milky Way spill across the heavens with an intensity we can barely comprehend today. No haze, no light pollution, only the sharp brilliance of countless stars, their light traveling millions of years through space to meet the eyes of creatures who could never name them. The same stars that shone on dinosaurs still shine on us, a reminder that though they are gone, the sky remembers. As the night deepens, a low fog begins to creep along the ground, curling between roots and ferns. The giant Apatosaurus sleeps, standing, her breathing slow and rhythmic. Somewhere beyond, the truden makes its strike, vanishing into the darkness with its prize. The pterosaurs fold their wings and settle onto rocky ledges, eyes closing. By the time the horizon begins to pale with the first light of dawn, the Mesozoic world has completed another silent rotation beneath the ancient stars. The night fades, but its beauty lingers, a fleeting moment in deep time when dinosaurs lived beneath the same endless canopy we still see, and perhaps, in some quiet way, dreamed beneath it. Chapter 16. The slow dance of herds, the land stretched endlessly. An ocean of golden grass swaying in the warm breath of a Cretaceous afternoon. Each blade of grass seemed to bend in time with the slow, unhurried steps of the herd. They were great, gentle creatures, their long necks swaying like the branches of willows, their tails curling and uncurling in a steady rhythm that matched the heartbeat of the earth. This was not a rush, not a hunt, not a chase. This was the quiet poetry of survival, the slow dance of herds. The sauropods, colossal yet calm, moved as one. Their footsteps were muffled by the soil and softened by the grass, leaving only faint impressions that the wind would soon erase. The air was thick with the earthy smell of trampled vegetation and warm sunlight, carrying with it the occasional distant call of smaller dinosaurs hidden among the greenery. Young ones walked closer to their mothers, their eyes wide with curiosity, their smaller strides matching the longer, patient steps of the adults. From a distance, it looked almost like a living river flowing across the land, necks rising and lowering in gentle waves, bodies swaying left and right as they grazed. Occasionally, one would stop to pull at a low-lying branch or sniff the air, the rest slowing instinctively so no one was left behind. They did not need to speak. Their bond was older than words, carried in the subtle shifts of posture, in the shared rhythm of breathing and walking dot above them. The sky stretched wide and pale blue, its edges melting into the golden horizon. Long shadows trailed behind the herd, blending together until they became a single moving shape. High overhead, pterosaurs circled lazily, their wings catching glints of sunlight like ripples on a calm lake. The herd's journey was not a straight line. It wound gently through valleys and around hills, following the memory of ancient routes their ancestors had taken for generations. These paths led to greener fields, to hidden watering holes, to places where the ground was soft and safe for nesting. They moved together because together was safer. In numbers there was comfort. In numbers there was strength. As evening approached, the sunlight mellowed into a warm amber glow. Dust rose from beneath their feet, hanging in the air like a fine golden mist. Somewhere within the group, a deep, resonant call echoed. A low-frequency sound felt as much as heard. The herd responded without urgency, subtly shifting direction toward a shallow river that glistened ahead. When they reached the water, they stood quietly side by side, lowering their heads to drink. Ripples spread outward, each one catching the colors of the setting sun. The younger ones splashed and played near the shore while the elders kept watch, their eyes scanning the tall grass for any sign of movement. Night fell slowly, like a blanket being drawn over the world. The herd began to settle, folding their long legs beneath them, their massive bodies forming a protective ring around the sleeping young. Above, the first stars emerged, blinking softly against the darkening sky. The sounds of the day faded into a gentle chorus of night insects and distant calls. And so, under the watchful light of the moon, the herd rested. Their breathing was deep and steady, the rise and fall of their chests matching the faint whisper of the wind. Tomorrow they would rise again, and the slow dance would continue, step by step, mile by mile, across the endless grasslands of a world long gone, but still moving in memory. Chapter 17. Islands lost in time. Far away from the thunderous plains where giant herds roamed, and far from the inland seas where predators hunted with stealth, there were places the world almost seemed to forget. Small, scattered islands surrounded by endless water, isolated from the rest of the prehistoric earth. These islands were like nature's secret laboratories, places where dinosaurs and other creatures evolved in ways so unique, so strange, that no mainland species could match them. They were worlds within worlds. The story of these lost islands begins with the quiet lapping of ancient waves against rocky shores. Imagine an island the size of a small country, ringed by jagged cliffs and dotted with palm groves. The air is heavy with the scent of salt water. The sound of seabirds echoes across the coastline, and the ground trembles not with the march of giants, but with the delicate steps of creatures shaped by isolation. Here, life moved to a different rhythm. The rules of the mainland didn't always apply. On islands, resources were limited. There were no endless plains of grass, no vast forests stretching for hundreds of miles. Food was precious, and predators were often few or entirely absent. In such places, dinosaurs adapted in unusual ways. Some grew smaller over time, a phenomenon scientists call insular dwarfism. Without the need to fend off massive predators, size became less important, and energy efficiency became key. Others grew larger than their mainland relatives, filling ecological roles that didn't exist anywhere else. On these isolated lands, evolution had free rein to be as creative or as bizarre as it wanted. One of the most remarkable examples comes from a place we now call Hateg Island, in what is modern-day Romania. Millions of years ago, it was cut off from the rest of Europe by a warm, shallow sea. Here lived the tiny Magyarosaurus, a sauropod, a long-necked dinosaur that was barely the size of a horse. On the mainland, its relatives were titans, some stretching over 100 feet long and weighing as much as a herd of elephants combined. But on Hateg, being huge was a disadvantage. Food was scarce, and traveling long distances to find it wasn't possible. Over generations, Magurosaurus became a miniature giant, perfectly suited to its island home. The island also harbored predators, though they were not the fearsome giants of other lands. Balor Bondoc, a stocky feathered raptor, stalked the underbrush. It had 2 sickle-shaped claws on each foot instead of 1, and a body built more like a muscular bird than a sleek, agile hunter. On the mainland, it might have been outcompeted by faster, larger predators. But here, on Hattig, it was king. Its prey, smaller dinosaurs and reptiles, had no better defense than camouflage and speed. And even those weren't always enough. Islands didn't just produce small giants and strange predators. They were also refuges for species that had vanished elsewhere. Cut off from the changes sweeping the mainland, some dinosaurs lived on in these secluded habitats long after their relatives disappeared. They were like living time capsules, carrying ancient traits into new ages. Beyond Hattig, the same evolutionary oddities unfolded on other prehistoric islands. On what is now Madagascar, isolated for tens of millions of years, there lived Masiakasaurus, a small predator with forward-jutting teeth that looked almost comical until you realize they were perfect for gripping slippery fish and small prey. On islands in what is now Japan, paleontologists have found fossils of small, lightly built hadrosaurs and unique armored dinosaurs that seem to have evolved features not seen in their mainland cousins. The rhythm of life on these islands was different. Without massive herds to stir up the landscape, the days were quieter, the migrations shorter, and the seasons more subtle. Creatures here didn't roam for hundreds of miles. They stayed close to the food and water they knew. In this stillness, the bond between animal and land became deeper. Each species was finely tuned to its environment, like a key that fit only one lock. But isolation could be both a gift and a curse. The same oceans that protected these animals from mainland predators also trapped them. When climates shifted or sea levels rose, the balance could tip. A long drought could wipe out the plants that herbivores depended on. A single invasive predator, perhaps washed ashore on a storm-tossed log, could spell disaster for unprepared prey. Life here was delicate, like a candle sheltered from the wind, but vulnerable to the smallest draft. And yet, for millions of years, these islands thrived. They were reminders that evolution doesn't always follow a straight path toward bigger, faster, or stronger. Sometimes it chooses smaller, slower, and stranger. Sometimes it writes a different story entirely, one shaped not by competition, but by cooperation with a very specific place. As we look at these islands lost in time, today, through the scattered fossils left behind, we are peering into worlds that no longer exist. We see hints of creatures that walked a narrower stage, whose dramas were quieter but no less important. They tell us that the Earth's history isn't just the story of mighty giants and epic battles. It's also the story of tiny adaptations, of survival in unlikely places, of nature's endless ability to surprise us. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson these islands offer, that beauty and wonder aren't only found in the grand and the powerful. Sometimes they are hidden away in the most remote corners of the world, waiting for millions of years before we finally uncover their secrets. Chapter 18. Reign over the Red Earth. The vast expanse of red earth stretched endlessly beneath a sky heavy with clouds, pregnant with promise. For countless days, the land had been scorched by relentless sunlight. The soil cracked and dry, dust whispering in the warm breeze like forgotten secrets. The air felt thick and still, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for something ancient and powerful to awaken it from its drought-stricken slumber. In the distance, the horizon began to blur as heavy clouds rolled in, slow and majestic like slow-moving beasts drifting toward their resting places. The temperature shifted subtly, a coolness threading through the oppressive warmth, carrying with it the earthy scent of moisture and renewal, a scent as old as life itself. The dinosaurs, attuned to the world around them in ways both instinctual and profound, sensed this shift. Their movements grew deliberate, their gazes lifted skyward, following the gathering storm. Then, the first drop fell, a solitary bead of coolness that struck the parched earth and vanished like a fleeting whisper. It was followed by another, and then another, each falling more assuredly, gathering confidence as they danced toward the ground in a growing chorus. Soon, the rain began to fall in a steady, soothing rhythm, raindrops tapping on leaves, drumming softly on rocky outcrops and splashing into newly forming puddles. This gentle percussion echoed through the prehistoric world, a lullaby that seemed to caress the ancient trees and the creatures. Beneath, the forest canopy became a shimmering curtain of droplets, filtering the fading light into delicate shafts that flickered on the forest floor. Giant ferns, cycads, and towering conifers drank eagerly, their leaves and bark glistening with moisture. The scent of wet earth grew stronger, rich and fertile, stirring a sense of calm and promise in the air. Dinosaurs of every shape and size responded to the life-giving rain. Small feathered dinosaurs paused their scavenging, tilting their heads upward to drink the falling drops, feathers darkening as they soaked up the moisture. Larger herbivores like the hadrosaurs moved slowly through the undergrowth, their massive bodies shedding droplets that traced the contours of muscles beneath their scaly skin. They lowered their heads to the fresh puddles, drinking deeply, their breaths slow and rhythmic in the cool, damp air. Even the fierce predators altered their pace. The usually stealthy dromaeosaurs moved with deliberate care through the wet underbrush, their footsteps softened by the damp ground. The ever-watchful eyes of the tyrannosaurs flickered through mist and rain, their massive forms blending with the gray shadows as they sought shelter or, occasionally, took advantage of the rain's cover to stalk prey. The constant dance of hunter and hunted continued, but under the steady umbrella of the rain, the urgency softened to a measured rhythm. The rain's touch brought the entire ecosystem to life. Fern fronds unfurled like delicate scrolls, sipping water through every fiber. Cycads and other ancient plants stretched their roots into the moist earth, pulling up nourishment that would fuel the cycle of growth and renewal. Flowering plants, shy and hidden beneath layers of green, opened their petals slowly, the drops gathering and trembling on soft surfaces like tiny jewels. Pools formed in hollows and riverbeds, their surfaces shimmering with ripples from the falling rain. Beneath these waters, prehistoric fish darted in agile schools, while turtles and amphibians emerged from their hiding places, croaking and splashing in joyful welcome to the nourishment. Insects, too, emerged in great numbers. Primitive bees buzzed with renewed energy, early crickets chirped their evening songs, and other tiny creatures crawled from leaf litter and bark, adding their voices to the chorus of life. The rain shaped the rhythms of the prehistoric world. Migration slowed as herds sought shelter beneath great trees or in sheltered valleys, while mothers shielded their young with patient care. Hatchlings huddled beneath ferns, their small eyes bright with curiosity as the world around them changed and shimmered in the gentle downpour. As the storm began to wane, the clouds thinned and the sun peeked through, casting golden light that danced on leaves and puddles. The world glowed with renewed vibrancy. The rusty red of the soil deepened, the greens of the plants brightened, and the sky's blue shimmered behind the retreating clouds. A faint rainbow arced across the horizon, a delicate bridge between the storm and calm, symbolizing hope and the endless cycle of life. The dinosaurs, sensing the end of the storm, emerged cautiously from their shelters. Sauropods stretched their great necks, shaking water from their backs, while packs of smaller carnivores began to stir, their keen eyes scanning the refreshed landscape. The quiet balance of nature resumed, the pulse of life steady and enduring. Beneath the vast prehistoric sky, rain was more than just water. It was the lifeblood of the ancient world. It shaped the land, nurtured the forests, and fueled the endless cycle of growth, decay, and renewal that defined life on Earth. It connected every creature from the tiniest insect to the mightiest dinosaur in a web of survival and interdependence. As night fell, the air cooled, and the world settled into a peaceful hush. Stars twinkled faintly above, and the scent of wet earth lingered, a comforting reminder of the day's rain. Under this quiet canopy, the dinosaurs closed their eyes, breathing slowly and deeply, cradled by the gentle memory of rain, soft, persistent, and eternal. In the red earth beneath their feet, the story of rain and life continued, endless and timeless, as delicate and profound as each falling drop. Chapter 19. Echoes of the Ancients. Step softly into the ancient world, where time folds and whispers of the past fill the air. Imagine yourself standing in a dense prehistoric forest, the canopy above so thick it filters sunlight into gentle beams that dance on the mossy ground. Around you, the world is alive, not just with movement, but with an intricate symphony of sounds. These are the echoes of the ancients, the subtle voices of dinosaurs carried across millions of years, quietly painting a picture of life, long vanished from our world. Far from the booming roars and thunderous cries often imagined, dinosaur communication was likely more delicate, more mysterious. Instead of shouts, their language was woven from soft coos, gentle grunts, low rumbles, and distant calls that blended seamlessly with the natural sounds of their environment. Picture a vast landscape alive with this layered chorus, each note a thread in the tapestry of prehistoric life. Consider the enormous sauropods, those gentle giants whose necks stretched high above the treetops like living towers. Their voices were probably deep, resonant hums, vibrations rolling like distant thunder through valleys and open plains. These low-frequency sounds would have traveled great distances, not unlike the deep calls of modern elephants, allowing these titans to communicate across miles. Imagine feeling the sound as much as hearing it, vibrations rolling through your body, a primal connection between creatures separated by vast spaces. These calls might have served many purposes: to announce presence, call mates, or warn rivals. In this way, the sauropods' voices became part of the landscape itself, a slow, steady rhythm grounding the prehistoric world. Closer to the forest floor, smaller herbivorous dinosaurs, perhaps the hadrosaurs and their kin, might have exchanged softer, more intimate sounds. Gentle chirps, delicate whistles, or cooing noises created a quiet conversation among family groups, reassuring and bonding them in an often dangerous world. These subtle calls were like the hush of a mother soothing her young, a tender language, shared in the dappled shadows beneath towering ferns and cycads. Predators, too, had their voices not as fierce screams, but as strategic whispers. The agile dromaeosaurs, for example, likely used low growls, clicks, and hisses to communicate silently during hunts. These sounds were tactical, designed to coordinate pack movements or warn off rivals without startling prey. The forest underbrush echoed with these subtle notes, soft, sharp, fleeting, each part of a calculated dance between hunter and hunted. The occasional sharp call could break the silence, a sudden cry that rippled through the trees and sent ripples of tension through the ecosystem. Some dinosaurs had bodies built not only for strength or speed, but for sound itself. Certain species sported hollow crests, bony tubes, or inflated throat sacs, nature's own musical instruments. Imagine a hadrosaur inflating a resonant throat sac like a giant balloon, creating haunting foghorn-like calls that rolled across the misty dawn. These eerie melodies might have signaled territory, beckoned mates, or warned of danger. Others could have used their crests as drums, beating rhythmic pulses that echoed through dense forests. A prehistoric Morse code heard only by those attuned to its message. The soundscape extended beyond dinosaur calls. The gentle patter of rain on leaves, the babble of streams weaving through the undergrowth, and the whisper of wind through ancient branches formed a rich background. Insects added their buzzing and chirping, while amphibians croaked from hidden pools. Together, these natural sounds created an ever-changing symphony, both calming and alive, that surrounded the dinosaurs, shaping their daily lives. These vocalizations and natural sounds were not mere noise. They were essential tools for survival and social interaction. They built connections, formed families, and maintained the delicate balance of ecosystems. Through sound, dinosaurs communicated their hopes, fears, and intentions, expressions as complex and varied as those of animals today. Though millions of years have passed since these voices filled the air, their echoes remain hidden and fossilized bones, preserved in the shapes of crests, and hinted at by the calls of modern birds and reptiles. Paleontologists study these clues, piecing together the possible songs of the past, inviting us to imagine these ancient melodies as vividly as any sight or touch. So now, as you listen, let the imagined calls of the dinosaurs wash over you, a soothing blend of distant hums, soft whistles, and gentle coos. Picture the twilight forests alive with sound, the gentle rustle of leaves accompanying these voices as the sun dips low. Allow yourself to drift on this ancient melody, a lullaby from the dawn of life, connecting you to a world both strange and familiar. The echoes of the ancients remind us that life's song is timeless, carried not only in bones or stones, but in the quiet, enduring music of existence itself. These voices, though silent now, remain a gentle presence, guiding us softly to sleep beneath the starry skies of the past. Chapter 20. The last sunset and dawn's first footsteps. The sun dipped low over the prehistoric horizon, casting long shadows across an ancient landscape that had witnessed millions of years of life's epic story. This was a world on the edge of change, a quiet, lingering moment before everything shifted forever. The air was thick with a golden haze, warmth settling gently over forests, plains, and shores alike. Dinosaurs moved slowly in the fading light, their movements calm, unaware that this day would be one of their last. Imagine a towering sauropod, its neck reaching for the highest leaves bathed in amber sunlight. It grazes slowly, savoring the tender shoots, while a nearby herd of hadrosaurs browses quietly on ferns. Above them, pterosaurs glide lazily across the sky, their wings catching the last rays of daylight. The world seems peaceful, almost still, like a painting caught in a moment between breaths. But beneath this calm surface, subtle shifts were beginning. Earth trembling faintly, skies darkening unexpectedly, a sense of an ending woven quietly into the fabric of life. Scientists believe this was the calm before the storm, a period when nature's rhythm slowed, unaware of the catastrophic events that would soon unfold. This moment was the last sunset for an era that had lasted millions of years, a farewell, whispered in the language of light and shadow. As the sun sank further, a cool breeze stirred the leaves, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Creatures large and small settled in for the night, some curled beneath ferns, others nestled in rocky shelters, and many drifting to sleep beneath open skies. Their world, vast and vibrant, was about to change forever, but for now, they rested in the gentle embrace of twilight. This twilight was not just an ending, but also a moment of reflection, a chance to marvel at the incredible diversity and resilience of life that had flourished for so long. The towering Triceratops, with its massive horns and shield-like frill, had defended its herds through countless battles. The swift Velociraptor had hunted with cunning and precision, masters of the shadowy undergrowth. A mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex, the apex predator, had ruled its domain with power and presence unmatched. Each species carried its own story, a saga of survival, adaptation, and change. Their footprints, fossilized in stone, speak to us across millions of years, telling tales of struggle and triumph. Their bones, slowly uncovered by scientists, are chapters of a book that nature wrote in flesh and bone. The last sunset was also a time of stillness and awe, moment when the earth seemed to pause and breathe. The sky shifted through hues of orange, pink, and purple, casting a magical glow that bathed the world in warmth and softness. Shadows lengthened, and stars began to twinkle faintly in the darkening sky. It's in these moments that we feel connected to the deep, past two creatures that once walked this earth, whose lives shaped the world we know today. Their legacy lives on in the bones beneath our feet, in the birds that sing at dawn, and in the quiet spaces where nature continues its endless cycle. As night falls and the last light fades, the prehistoric world holds its breath awaiting the dawn of a new era. The story of the dinosaurs is one of incredible wonder, but also of impermanence. It reminds us that even the mightiest must one day give way, making room for new stories to unfold. And so, under this final sunset, we say goodbye not with sadness, but with reverence. The dinosaurs' time may have ended, but their spirit endures in every leaf that rustles, every breeze that blows, and every heartbeat that listens to the echoes of the past. As night's gentle veil lifts, the first light of dawn stretches across the ancient horizon, soft and golden, spilling warmth over the land once more. The world awakens slowly, a tender stirring from the deep quiet of sleep. This is the prehistoric dawn, a fresh beginning, a new breath after the last sunset's fading whispers. In the pale morning light, dew clings to leaves and grasses, sparkling like tiny jewels on the red earth. The air is cool and fragrant, filled with the sense of damp soil, fresh greenery, and the faint tang of distant water. The forest is alive with gentle sounds, a soft rustle as a small dinosaur brushes past fallen leaves, the distant call of a bird-like creature greeting the new day. The splash of water as prehistoric amphibians stir in hidden pools. Here, in this peaceful awakening, life begins anew. Small herds of herbivores rise, stretching limbs stiff from rest, their breath misting softly in the cool air. Young hatchlings blink open their eyes for the first time, tentative but curious, ready to explore the world that awaits them. The slow, deliberate movements of giant sauropods create soft thuds in the earth, a rhythmic heartbeat echoing the pulse of life itself. Above, pterosaurs take to the sky, wings unfurling wide as they catch the gentle morning currents. They're soaring. Shadows flicker across the ground, a reminder of freedom and grace that has endured through countless sunrises. The symphony of the dawn, bird calls, gentle footfalls, the whisper of breeze, blends into a perfect harmony, a soothing lullaby. For the waking world, this dawn is more than a new day. It is a symbol of resilience and hope. For every ending, like the last sunset, there's a beginning. The ancient world moves forward, shaped by change and renewal. New generations rise, carrying forward the legacy of their ancestors, the mighty dinosaurs who once ruled the earth, and the creatures that followed, adapting and evolving through the ages. In this quiet moment, as the sun climbs higher, we feel a profound connection to the past and the future alike. The footsteps of the dawn echo softly, promising that life continues endlessly and beautifully beneath the endless skies. Chapter 21. The Quiet Earth. Secrets beneath the soil, beneath the towering trees, rushing rivers, and endless plains. Of the prehistoric world, there lies a hidden realm, one that tells stories in whispers rather than roars. This is the quiet earth, the soil that cradled the footsteps, nests, and remains of creatures that once ruled the planet. It's a world frozen in time, patiently holding the secrets of a world long past. Imagine sinking your fingers gently into soft mud and feeling the delicate impressions left by a dinosaur's claw or the faint outline of its skin. These ancient marks, preserved by nature's careful hand, are like messages sent across millions of years, waiting to be discovered by patient eyes. Each fossilized print is a snapshot, a moment in the life of a creature whose heartbeat once echoed in this very place.